Imagine walking home at 2 in the morning. The streets are empty. The city is silent. A block away, beneath a flickering streetlight, a man is walking toward you. But he isn't walking, he is dancing. A strange, exaggerated waltz. His head is tilted back at an unnatural angle, looking directly at the sky. And on his face is a smile that is far too wide for human anatomy. He is moving closer, and he hasn't blinked. This isn't a ghost story, it's a study in predatory psychology. Welcome to The Grim Archive. The original account surfaced in 2012. A young man walking home in a major city. The streets were completely deserted. No cars, no police patrols, just the hum of the street lights. As he approached an intersection, he noticed a silhouette. A tall, impossibly thin man dressed in an old, outdated suit. The man was performing a strange, rhythmic dance step. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Gliding along the pavement, it was a waltz. And he was waltzing directly toward the narrator. As the figure crossed under the yellow light, the details became clear. His eyes were wide open, locked onto the sky, and his mouth was stretched into a cartoonish, horrific grin, the kind of smile a predator wears when it knows its prey is trapped. The narrator crossed the street to avoid him. The smiling man stopped dancing. He turned his head still tilted back and watched him. Then the smiling man crossed the street too. The narrator started walking faster. He looked over his shoulder. The man was no longer dancing, he was walking, taking massive unnatural strides, eating up the distance between them. Still smiling. The narrator looked away for just a second. When he looked back, the smiling man had stopped. He was now halfway down the block, crouched on the pavement, looking exactly like a sprinter waiting for the starting gun. And then he ran. The account went viral immediately. It tapped into a core human fear. It wasn't about monsters or ghosts. It was about the Uncanny Valley, the psychological phenomenon where something looks almost human but is fundamentally wrong. A smile is a universal sign of safety. To subvert that, to place a manic, unbreakable smile on a figure chasing you in the dark, violates every instinct we have. It didn't start on the internet. Predators have used abnormal behavior to paralyze their victims for decades. Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, was known to exhibit bizarre, erratic body language that froze his victims in terror before he struck. Serial killers often use the sheer absurdity of a situation to break a victim's fight or flight response. The internet dismissed the smiling man as a well-written piece of creative fiction. The author, a user named Blue Tidal, eventually admitted it was heavily dramatized. The internet sighed in relief. It was just a story. But in 2018, independent researchers decided to look through cold case files from the 1970s and 1980s, searching for behavioral anomalies that matched the smiling man's description. What they found was buried in a police archive in Seattle. A police report filed in October 1978. A young woman walking home at 2 a.m. was chased by an unidentified male. The police report documented her exact words. He was wearing a suit. He was dancing down the sidewalk. And he wouldn't stop smiling. The 1978 suspect was never caught. The police wrote it off as an encounter with a drunk or mentally ill local. But the exact behavioral profile existed in official police records 34 years before the internet invented him. The smiling man phenomenon leaves investigators and psychologists debating 2 deeply unsettling theories. The first is the copycat effect. When a story reaches 50 million people on the internet, it infects the collective consciousness. It only takes one deeply disturbed individual to read the account, buy a vintage suit, and walk out into the night to make the fiction real. The internet didn't just share a ghost story, it may have provided a blueprint for predators. But the second theory is far more dangerous. Criminal psychologists refer to it as predatory paralysis. When we face immediate, recognizable danger, a man with a weapon or a charging animal, our brains instantly trigger the fight or flight response. We run or we fight. But when a threat presents itself in a way that is utterly absurd, like a man waltzing under a streetlight with his face tilted to the sky, the brain cannot categorize the danger. It freezes. It tries to make sense of the nonsense. It breaks the victim's psychological loop, leaving them rooted to the spot. And in those crucial seconds of confusion, the predator closes the distance. We want to believe the monsters are fiction. We want to believe that if we no clip out of reality, it's just a game. But the archives tell a different story. Sometimes the thing dancing toward you in the dark isn't a ghost, it's just a man. And that is infinitely worse. If you survive the night, subscribe to the Grim Archive. New cases every week, the ones that deserve to be remembered. We'll see you in the dark.